Hey yo, and what's up tribe? Welcome to this week's video where I'm going to talk all about soft skills. What are soft skills? Well, soft skills, in contrast to hard skills, are skills that are actually a little hard to teach in the classroom. Essentially, hard skills are things like how to program or maybe some of the technical stuff that you may have learned in college, but soft skills are a little bit different. Yeah, I kind of hate the word soft skills, kind of squishy. Anyway, soft skills are skills that are, in my view, business skills, human skills, essentially the skills that are going to set you aside. Here's why. As we get further into the 21st century, you've got automation, you've got computers doing a lot of the work for you. What's really going to set you apart are these soft skills that they really can't teach computers, at least not yet anyway. So let's talk about some of the key soft skills that I talk to my students about. And by the way, you don't have to be a college student for this to be relevant. This is anyone who's going into the job market and not just in business. These are things that are important to set yourself out as someone who's going to be a valuable member of whatever workforce and probably move up into management and maybe even further. But I'm also going to talk about what you might look for when you're getting interviewed to see if you have that soft skill developed or developing. So the first soft skill I'm going to talk about is something called self-development or a lifelong learner. This is essentially going to be asked in an interview by asking you to talk about what you've recently been reading. Now, don't start by going into Harry Potter or 50 Shades of Grey or something stupid like that. They want to know, are you reading something to better yourself? So, what professional development book have you been doing? Or have you been learning skills on either LinkedIn Learning or YouTube? Tribe, there are tons of ways to continue to learn after you're done with college, no matter how old you happen to be. Go on YouTube and start learning things. Even if you're just someone who's reading history so you can understand history better, that's better than just reading fiction all the time. I'm not saying fiction's bad. What I'm saying is when someone asks you in a job interview how you've been reading or what you've been reading, that is not a rapport question. That is an opportunity for you to start talking about how you're continually developing yourself. The next soft skill I'm going to talk about is adaptability, and that is exactly what it sounds like. How can you adapt to changes? These can be technological changes when it comes to computers or disruptions that happen in the real world. Hey, we've all had to deal with COVID and what happened with COVID, so there's your opportunity to talk about adaptability. That's exactly what they'll ask. What have you done that you had to cope with a change, or how have you handled change in a workplace? That's asking, are you adaptable? The next thing is, how can you work as a part of a team? I don't care what kind of job you're going for. Generally speaking, you're going to be working as part of a team, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. And so your ability to get along with others is going to be of the utmost importance. And in fact, that's a good reason for the interview. Not so much do you have the skills, but are you going to get along in the culture of that particular workplace? How can you demonstrate that you've worked in a team? Well, talk about your group projects if you happen to be in school, or talk about all the times that you've collaborated with employees. I don't care if you're an auto mechanic collaborating with other auto mechanics in a garage, or if you're someone who's a manager collaborating with other managers. It doesn't matter. There's always an opportunity to demonstrate your ability to collaborate and work positively in a team. Similarly, they may ask how you've handled conflicts in a team, and that's going to be important for you to demonstrate as well. Related to the ability to work in a team, can you also demonstrate a leadership ability, taking charge, and also empowering people who you're leading? Leadership is something that is usually demonstrated on a college resume when you see that someone's been involved with various activities. But hey, are you leading a civic group? Do you have a little running group that you take around? Anything that you do where you're coordinating activities, where you're taking a leadership role, getting people from one point to the other, that is leadership, and you're going to want to look for opportunities to talk about it, humbly of course, in your interviews. All right, tribe, this next one is actually quite important, and it's coachability. Can you be coached? You see, what happens is everyone's going to screw up in their job. What they want to know is, if you screw up, are you going to take initiative to seek feedback for improvement? Or at least if you're given a criticism, are you going to take that criticism and learn to grow from it? So this ability to be coached is going to be looked for whenever they say, tell me about a time when you may have failed. Well, that's where you're going to want to talk about how you looked to other people for mentorship or some way of growing from that particular failure. Next up is communication skills. Obviously, being able to listen and communicate yourself is very important, but also, do you embody active listening? Are you able to make eye contact? Are you able to ask clarification questions when someone says something that might be subjective in nature? How do you communicate, and how do you ensure that everyone is on the same page when you are communicating? Also, can you write an email without typos or without autocorrect getting you? Hey, I'm a big violator of that one, by the way. Or are you able to construct well-written emails without slang or anything else creeping in? Work ethic is an obvious one, probably one that's always been looked for, but what that means is, do you have grit and do you have perseverance when the work is really tough? But also, are you going to sit around and wait for a task? Are you going to wait for someone to give you something? If your supervisor comes up to you and says, what are you doing right now? And you're like, well, I'm on Teams because there's nothing else to do right now. I'm just waiting for you to give something. No, they want you to either be able to approach them and say, hey, I finished with this, I need something else to do, or look for problems within the organization that you can solve within the bounds of what you're supposed to do. Okay, this next one is a little bit different depending on who I talk to, but critical thinking and problem solving. And you might say to yourself, well, critical thinking's obvious, but one of the things that especially larger colleges aren't really preparing students for through multiple choice questions in their exams is, can you critically think through a problem? What this means for you is, what can you do in an interview to demonstrate that you're able to dissect a problem from multiple different angles? Can you see it from multiple perspectives? And can you really get down and dirty, literally or figuratively, trying to solve that problem? Whether it's a client, whether it's something in your life, whatever it happens to be, you just want to be able to critically think through things and demonstrate that in some of the results that you show on your resumes. This next one's obviously important to me, but can you demonstrate emotional intelligence? And what that means is, are you emotionally aware of your own emotions? Can you sense emotions in others? Can you manage your own emotions, your anger, your fears and anxieties, your happiness even, and of course, the times when, you might bring some sadness from your life into the workplace, which you of course don't want to do. Emotional intelligence also means conflict management and the ability to really manage other people's emotions and make sure that other people aren't getting more agitated by talking to you, but calming down and you're able to handle those particular relationship-oriented situations. Some places are also going to be looking for something called confidence. And confidence in the research area, we call it self-efficacy. Do you believe that you can? This is somewhat related to locus of control, because locus of control, as I've spoken about before, requires you to realize that you can. But confidence must also be humble. You don't want to be cocky. You don't want to be a dick, basically. So we're looking for humble confidence here. And finally, in many jobs, you may be interacting with either customers or C-suite or both. And in that case, do you have executive presence? What does executive presence mean? What that means is essentially, are you using slang or are you speaking the business speak? Are you avoiding anything that might be generational in terms of your language? Don't use the word yeet. Are you also able to dress yourself appropriate to whatever industry you happen to be in? This is all important in terms of projecting executive presence. It's not just presentation skills like this, it's also just your ability to handle yourself in a conversation with multiple different stakeholders in a particular organization. It's going to be important for you to demonstrate. Obviously, that's going to be easy for them to see while you're out there interviewing. So obviously, you want to tone down any slang, any language that is very relevant, more so for your Gen Z or millennial or even Gen X generations, and instead use language that's appropriate in the business world or whatever area that you happen to be going into. So there you go. There you have just a little bit about some of the soft skills, squishy skills that really aren't squishy, that are really important for you and your career growth. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And as always, I hope you're better off today than you were yesterday. And I'm looking forward to you being a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. Take care.